All right, we're recording. Hello, everybody out there. Please leave comments in the comment section. Please hit like and subscribe. We're all a family here. Please share this. That's very important. This is Good Servant here, and I have Right the Hand. And basically, um, I kind of I like and agree with Chris's premise, and I want to um put this in a way that this is what furthers our understanding of God. 'Cause in science, they'll tell you that they're they're taking cause and effect relationships and telling you how things work. But as soon as you take God out of that process as a variable, then you're left with a kind of a man-made explanation. And Chris has like formed his argument pretty well. And I think that what's happening is people are just not understanding what he's trying to do. So, Chris, I'll let you explain it a little bit on, what you think that these science uh, explanations are and why you think it's important to reduce.
Yeah. Well, you're cutting in and out, but I got the basis of it. Yeah. No. The entire point is, we all live in this reality, right? So nobody can get more information from observations than anybody else. It's not like me and you can go out to a beach, we both watch the sunset, and you're like, well, I saw burning helium, so I know what the sun is. I'd be like, where did you see that? I saw the exact same thing you saw. How are you coming to such a drastically different conclusion? And every nobody wants to admit, especially the ballers, they'll never admit this, that they are living in a faith exactly like I am. But instead of uh, how simple my faith is, where it's just like, why does a rock fall? Well, I could give you this complicated story about, but I just say it's God. God designed a system. I don't really care how that system works. It just works. And they're going to be like, that's such a stupid cop out that doesn't explain anything. And I'm like, okay, well, then you explain it. Mass is attracting mass, and that's causing space time to bend, and yada, yada, yada. I'm just like, can you show me or quantify any of that? And they just say, we know the effects. I'm like, okay, you know the effects. So do I. The rock falls. The only difference is you believe it falls because of this convoluted story about mass attracting mass, and I believe it's because of the design system. So we both have these opinions, right? We both have this faith-based belief system, and one person, the baller, thinks his faith-based belief system is fact, and that's basically it. It's hard to get somebody to admit their faith. They're
It's
not going to do it.
well, and what I think people are missing, right, is that okay? So the rock falls, right, and obviously God designed a system where, or you can even say, I say Jesus Christ, but you can say any, that it was a created system where every piece of material has its own uh, information in it on how it acts in the world, right? Everything has its own um,
Uniqueness. Yeah, exactly.
like uniqueness, right? And so, that's it would be hard to explain all of that, right? But you could say, okay, well, the rock falls. It's obviously less dense in the medium. You might even be able to go that far, right? But then, like, and probably further. But like, what people aren't understanding is that how simple that is as compared to saying, okay, well, I think that the rock falls because of mass attracting mass, or the effect of the curvature of space time due to the undistributed, I don't know, mass, right?
Yeah,
Like,
the uneven distribution of mass.
right. What people don't understand is how ridiculous that really is compared to just saying God. It's a system made by God, because all those other things you can't show me. You can't put it into my hand, that mechanical process. Like, you can hand me magnetism and I can play with magnets. You can hand me electricity, I can mess with that, right? But you can't hand me gravity, right? And what you're saying is that if you just take it and say, hey, look, all we can really do is observe the effect and then come up with some kind of story.
I mean, if so, that's can you do any? Can anybody do anything else? And I think one of the things that I hear a lot, is they'll be like, "Oh, well, you don't care to know," right? So they're kind of like dismissing everything that I'm, putting forth because they're just like, "Well, because you're saying that you can't find out why a rock falls, you don't care." I'm like, it's not that I don't care. My contribution is that you cannot, like, and that's my challenge. I'm like, can you show me how doing something tells you how it happens? Because if you ask anybody, how does the earth pull this rock down? Is it a physical connection? Is it the atoms pushing it down? Is there they cannot explain that mechanism. And that's the point. If you can't explain the mechanism, you can only describe its effects.
Right, but what the dangerous part is, right, when you take God out of the equation, right,
Yep, there you go.
then
That's the dangerous
then
part.
you're
Because you'll
saying,
never
but
come back. You'll never
right,
come back to God. Once he's
but
out, you're not going to put him back in.
right, and here's the dangerous part of that, right, is that their explanation gets taught in schools as fact to young children, right?
Exactly.
And the truth,
Exactly.
it's not my fault, but hey, you know what? It's the truth that Jesus is God, and that's the only way out. That's just the truth. And
Yeah,
to
I didn't make this. I didn't make this world. I'm just here.
right,
Don't
right.
blame
I mean,
me.
who knows? I might have even done it differently. Who knows? You know what I mean? I'm just this is the rules, and I believe in God, right? For the number one reason that it's true, right? And by telling a child, right, this bending of space-time, mass attracting mass, uneven distribution of mass, whatever that is, right, and dark energy, right, instead of saying all this stuff that you can't quantify, right, as fact to a child, right, instead of saying God created a system for you because he loves you, right, is evil on its best day. And they think that their explanations aren't faith based.
Yeah, but how do and my entire thing has, like, I don't know. I thought, like, at one point, if I framed it in a certain, and that's why, I don't know if you heard my last debate with Sean G. Like, he eventually booted me off when I said that I think God is the cause. But I really wanted to get him to challenge his belief versus mine. I'm like, okay, if I think it's God's system and you think it's something else, what do you have that I don't? Right? Like, we both have the rock falling. So how are you going to tell me you have something more empirical than my faith? It has to. You can't. It has to be your faith, unless you're some kind of superhuman, right? You can, like, see what I can't see or observe what I can't observe when this rock falls and get more information. That's when they bring up the tests and the experiments, and they're like, oh well, we dropped this rock from a higher point. Like that's okay. Or we hung these two balls from a scale, and I'm like, okay, well, you're not
Right.
dropping anything there. It's just it's this always, it's like always something else.
Or
It's
they'll say like, oh well, this drops at a different rate of speed, and
yeah,
this over here, well,
okay,
you can be able to take it out like far, like say, to humor them, right? And really in reality, you can take it out a little further. Like, okay, well, it looks like when you drop the rock, the reason it's falling is because the stuff around it is not as dense, and that's why it's allowed to fall. And once
yeah.
it
And
reaches some kind of
I've tried
equilibrium,
that,
you
but at the end of so what happens when you do that? They're just gonna be like, okay, but why? Right?
right? No, why
So,
not you?
and I'll be like, well, because God designed a system, and they're gonna be like, well, I'm like, so because at a certain point, right? Because you could do the same thing to them. They'll be like, well, mass bends space time. Why? Why does mass bend space time? And they're like, well, that's what we don't know. And I'm like, okay, so God, right? Because it's the same thing. I'm doing the exact same. Well, density, okay, displacement. You have a rock, it displaces the air. Why? Well, because there's more rock volume, whatever you want to start saying, and blah blah blah. And then at a certain point, it's just like, well, why? I'm like, well, what
And
more
here's
can
the
I?
here's the thing is like they'll never ever be able to hand you space time. They're never ever going to be able to show you an attraction between two massive objects, right? But like we can say, hey, look, Jesus did come to earth and he did die in front of like a lot of people and rose from the dead and then ascended to heaven in front of many witnesses, and it's even recorded in history. I mean, you're gonna tell me Aristosthenes put sticks in the ground, but like you don't even know if that guy existed, and his name is like Earth Set Stone, all jumbled up, right? So it's like what? Who is? I mean,
What do you believe?
at least
What
admit
what
that it's fake
character
there
what
too.
character do you believe in? Are you gonna they'll mock us for believing in Jesus and that, and then you're like, well, you believe in Aristotle and these sticks and these, to
Well,
me it's
Aristophanes, right? He didn't even write one book, right? And there was five astronomers, right? Which was a rare thing to be back in his day, right? Lived in his town, right? The same town. I forget the name of the two towns, but none of them. They did have books that survived antiquity, right? And none of them had Aristophanes in it.
there
So what
you
does
go.
that tell you, about this? I mean, the thing about this baller religion is number one, let's not get it twisted. It's a faith-based system. Number
That's
two,
it's the
no,
devil's religion.
right. And number two, it's like they almost want to find some kind of technicality or some kind of trick or some kind of mathematical wizardry. Like all they care about is using whatever intelligence they have, or to as an advantage over you. It's never to find the truth. It's always to win, in some sneaky way. And it's horrific because if people were able to see the debates and see Brenda or see Rumpus or whatever on the show trying to tell you that a mountain bends 3 miles because light bends from your chest that it's shooting out, you know, that's unbelievable to me. And if people see that, they would know, oh wait, I want to get on the side with these guys over here. I don't know what those guys are saying.
I think that's a huge part of the issue is like, this is why you don't hear these things on TV. And if the ball was like as serious as it was, they would have flat earthers on Channel 5 just shitting on them. Like how we just shit on fucking ballers all day. How we can take a baller, sit him down and be like, you think that tree is moving? Well, yeah, it's moving 70,000 miles an hour. It's just sitting there. It's just sitting there though. But they'll never put that on TV, because they know they would get roasted. So it
well,
has to be the other way.
well, I tried to explain it to my friend the other day. I said, like when you get a pencil and like before you sharpen it, it like has that flat part on the front.
Mm-hmm.
And you can like stand it up on your table, right? And if you leave it alone, right, you might be able to balance it there for a couple hours, maybe even all day, right? And we're supposed to be moving in four different orbital directions, 11 different vectors, right? The slowest speed being 1,000-mile-an-hour spin, and then 7,000 miles around the sun, and what a couple 100,000 miles an hour around the universe, and some millions of miles from the Big Bang. Like that's and it doesn't fall. I have pictures on my mantle that are just kind of sitting there, like barely balanced. They've been there 7 years, man. Like we're not moving. Like there's a way to test motion. And here's the thing, and I'll round out, so you can make a point. But like this is what I'll say is like, oh, I lost my train of thought, man. I
Motion.
lost yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's ways to test motion, right? Like you can have a pendulum, right? You in a car, and say you're going 50 miles an hour or whatever, and it's a constant speed. That pendulum is going to be moving a little bit, right?
Yeah, it's not gonna
Or
stay still.
yeah, or you can test motion based on like I mean, there's so many ways to test motion. You can, have water in front of you. Right? If you move that water, it's gonna move. It's like there's so many ways to test motion, but they say, oh well, you can't test for it. Oh, you can't feel it. So when I say, here's a flat picture of a flat water, that's way further out than your horizon needs to be. all they'll tell you is why it doesn't curve, and we already know it doesn't curve, right? But they can never show you the curve, right? Or I can say it's not moving, and they can tell me why I don't feel it, or why there's no Coriolis effect, but I already know there's none of those things, right? So all you have is a reason why I can't feel what I already know. You know, you see the disconnect there, how crazy it is.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with God. Oh, I can't show it to you, but I know He created this earth. Oh, I can't show you Him, but where did matter come from? I could do the same. It's just opposite sides of the same coin. It's a faith coin,
The thing is
and
they
it's
never
just
show you, but they never show you the opposite. Like when I say I don't feel motion, they don't show me, oh yeah, look, we're moving here. Like, or I say here, there's a picture of no curve. They just say, oh, the reason why it's not curved is because of this. They can never show me the curve or show me the
yeah,
motion.
true. At least we can show them the matter. We can show you the matter that God made, and they can't show the.
Right. I mean, I could throw a ball in the air and it comes right down to me, right? But if we were moving, right, your proof would be that it does move when I throw it up in the air.
It has to.
But you're right, but they can't. They can only tell me that when I throw it up, it just stays in its same spot. I don't know how when it gets higher, how it speeds up sideways, but they say the air is pulling like the ball or the helicopter or whatever's in the air along with the earth spin and along with the going around the sun. I'll tell you what, if all that was true, nobody would ever get in a hot air balloon. That would be freaking
you'd
suicide.
you'd you'd have to notice that. Like there's no way that all that can be happening, and you can just be like, no, I don't know, we're moving. I don't. Nah, you wouldn't feel it. No, I'm like, come on. Like when do we get like when do you get something verified? Like when is it like, okay, here the tree was here, or this object was here, and it moved, and now it's here. And
Never.
they'll how are
It's
they?
a
How do they not see its fate? How do they not see? I just it's to me. How do you?
is you know what I think it is? Number one, I think a lot of people just don't care, right? No, number two, I think that they try to hide it in equations and things that maybe look difficult on the surface, where it's kind of intimidating to some people to even get into it. They're like, oh, I trust them. They're smart people saying smart things, and people trust, right? Some people
Trust
don't
is faith. I
over
mean, what if I said I trust my priest? What would they say?
right. It's the
Hmm.
same thing, except that we have evidence. God came to Earth. you know.
Yeah, I mean, and even if you're like, oh well, okay, that's something you got to believe. Like, well, you, I don't need to believe that there's matter here, right? Somebody created this matter. And you're not going to tell me Earth just spontaneously came from nothing. Like that's so freaking ridiculous.
They're so quick to tell you how it happened, but they can't say why this is even a thing. Like, why is this a thing? Where did even the space come from for it to be here? You'd have to assume a lot of things were already here in the beginning, like, and not only that, but like all the rules, how things work. Um,
All
um,
accidents, all accidents. That's what they'll tell you.
why would this even be a thing? Why would this happen? You know what I mean?
And
They never can tell you why
that's
on
why
that.
they created 50 trillion years. You know,
Yeah.
because then if there was only like one of the things, if like you tell somebody, okay, you think the earth is 4.5 billion years old, can you even prove that there's any amount of time ago longer than say your grandfather or your great grandfather? How do you know time didn't start at your great great grandfather? You have no way of knowing that. The history books. No, actually, well, a history, but what were you there when it was written? You can't. People cannot prove how old the Earth is outside of their. To be honest, man, like you couldn't definitively prove the Earth wasn't created when you were born. Like you would have to take it on faith. You have to take it
That's
on faith that there was a world operating, that God didn't create this just for your existence, and there's not billions of worlds that He created for each individual that they're living through in a unique story.
That's right. I mean, like, here's the thing, right? Like, the only thing we have that tells us how things are going is the Bible, and it's really our choice to believe that. And it's
Yeah, I
like,
mean,
you
match
know,
it up with
and
reality.
yeah, that's right. Well, the crazy part about it is I like they're being so overt with all this 666 and all these 33s and everything, and I'm like they're not just like doing this stuff. They wouldn't use those numbers if it was like them using a number and it's matching up with the Bible. I think it's just we're just living the story, and that's what's happening. You know, like I don't think I don't think that the Bible is like a book meant to match reality. I think it's this is the book of that you are living. You
Yeah,
know,
no, I get it. It's the already written story, you know, and we have like minor roles, kind of, so to speak. That's how I kind of see it. Everybody wants to see humans as having like this grand role in the you know, the story of life, but like really we're just we're little actors on God's stage, and he already wrote our scripts, kind of like, you know, not saying that, oh, I have to do this or I have to, you know, on a
right? But
daily basis. Yeah, but not killing, not stealing, like these are those are the things that we already, you know, that's all written out. So I, you know, those are things that you can't just go against and do. So we are kind of, and you know, like I said, like he's gonna, you know, do the whole thing with the world and what he does, and uh, you know, that's not going to change. You know, when me or you, no matter what we do, we can never stop what God's going to do to the world. So yeah, we're living the story. So
it's
we just
great.
have to make sure to be on the right part.
Well, but do you know what's great, Chris, is that we know like that God doesn't lie, right? And what makes me feel so happy and comfortable with that is that he said that there is another place for us, that this place fell and we were going to get redeemed, and there's another place for us. And, he knew that we weren't going to be able to be anointed to heaven like some of the saints were before Christ, that we needed to be saved by grace, and maybe everyone is saved by grace, who knows? But, it depends if you believe that there's different salvations for the Old Testament Jews, which, some of them were anointed and, they went to heaven, and so, like, but I know that in the Bible, God doesn't lie, and He said that there is a paradise, a place prepared for us that like we can't even imagine, and like that will happen, and it's like if you really think about what that really is, I mean, we get eternity with no pain, no hunger, no tiredness anymore. You know what I mean? Like we get that for eternity. And if you think about their little billions and billions and billions of years that they like to talk about, well, that's going to be nothing to us, man, because eternity's a long time, brother. You know?
Yeah, I think it, you know, it's like the whole idea of like time, you know, I think changes, you know, because you know, like what is time? Time is change. You know what I mean? Like nothing
Oh,
stays the same.
not really, not really. Time is just a concept, right? To
Yeah,
define.
yeah. That's what I'm saying. So like we live in this. I think heaven or wherever will have a totally different like dealing with time. You
That's
know,
right.
like so it's, you know, because there's, oh, will you get bored? What will you do? It's like, it's I don't. You're totally like,
Paradise,
it's
all
going to
good.
be a, yeah, it's going to be a totally different concept. I don't think it's not going to be like us standing around Earth. You know, like that's not what I envision. I don't envision heaven, you know, the same mechanical and physical processes of Earth, yet just no bad people. Like I'm like that I think it's going to be a totally and a
Right.
totally different system. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't even try and like fathoming it up. You know, yeah, cool. Well, maybe like planets are, you know, like maybe planets are heaven. I spoke about this before. You know, maybe each person gets their own planet in heaven, and you can go back and forth between them. You don't fucking know. So
Yeah.
I leave the. You know, it's like a birthday present. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to know what the present is. Kind of spoils the
Never.
surprise a little bit. So I'm happy knowing just that there is a present there, and all I have to do is you know, not,
The Accept the grace and sacrifice of Jesus Christ. That's
yeah.
it. You
And a lot
know?
of that, you know, to me, that's like, yo, not like when people talk about, you know, I take it the whole ball earth thing a little like, yo, you're shitting on God. I don't, you know,
Yeah.
it doesn't like that. I'm like, yo, how are you going to sit here and say, oh, this was an accident? That would be like if I made this amazing fucking picture or invention, right? And people are using it and fucking getting, they're like, and everybody's like, wow, who made this? And people are like, It just showed up one day, and I'm like, you fucking piece of shit. What do you mean it just showed up one day? You fucktard. I
man,
put so much fucking work into that, and you're just gonna say it showed up one day? And then the
right.
people who knew,
I don't
right? The people who knew that I made it, you would expect them to be like, no, 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 no. Hey, 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 you didn't. That thing didn't show up. Fucking this guy made it. Why don't you give him credit? And be, oh well, no, he doesn't know how to use it. And that again, that's what it's going to come down to. Because if God made it, then He knows how it should be used. And if it get made by accident, then humans
have
can dictate how it's used.
I have this question, Chris, because um a lot of ballers, right? Well, I'll say 99% of them, right? If you tell them that the earth is flat and provably flat, and if you measure the ground, it's flat, don't look at the sky, look at the ground, it's flat, right? And we can prove that, right? And like they'll say, well, what's the mechanism holding up the sun and the moon, right? And you're like, you know what, man? That's what makes it way more magical now because now I know that God is holding those things up there, whatever they are. They might be lights, they might be something physical. That who knows, right? But those are up there by the power of God, and
That's
it's just so much more,
supernatural.
that
To
way not to know.
yeah, I mean, it to me, like, it's just a supernatural thing, and it gives proof that this world there can be supernatural things. So if you're sitting here and like, oh well, there's no miracles, I don't see any bro. The sun rising to me is a fucking miracle. Like, where well, a ball of heat, a circular heat source with light that just kind of hovers above us. Like, what if picture if I walked into a room and I had this orb, right? Just this floating magical orb that I could just turn on like a light, and I didn't need to hold it with my hands. It just shined. People would be like, what the fuck is that thing? I'm like, oh yeah, it's my little fucking light orb. They'd be like, how does it work? That's amazing. I'm like, I don't know. It's just, this is what it does. There would be, people would be baffled, fucking baffled, right? They would start saying, oh, it's alien technology. But here it is every day. And they're just like, yeah, just fucking hydrogen burning, in a fucking vacuum.
Yeah, it's just helium. It's just helium. It's a million, million, million degrees, it's only 98 on Earth.
Yeah. Exactly.
It
Exactly.
changes like throughout the day, right? It's so far away that it just knows how to change the temperature.
Yeah, and it keeps it the perfect temperature, so we don't get too hot or too cold. It's just what a coincidence. It just I guess when the universe exploded, it had that, well, let me not get too hot or cold for the eventual humans that are going to be, it's just, come on. This is what you're fucking believing. It's
It's
and then,
amazing.
and then they'll
Like
tell you God is ridiculous. I'm like, you're
it's
believing in a cosmic car accident.
not. But Chris, it's not like you're going on these debate shows and asking them to admit that they're wrong. All you're asking them to do is to say, "Hey, you don't really know either, and you have faith that that's what it is," and they won't even concede that, you know. And
Because
it's just
they
insane to me.
can't. They can't. Once it becomes faith, the only thing it has, right? Like, when you think about it, like I've said this about Einstein, like it wouldn't work if he was Larry, right? That's kind of the same thing with God, like they look at God, like once you say God, it's like, oh God, yeah, like that's it. It's just, oh, you're some fucking religious zealot anti, you've just been summed up just because you say God, oh, faith based, but then you start talking about science and dark matter and all, and then it's like real, I mean, it's somehow more real, like dark
Yeah,
matter is realer than God. How is that?
I'm trying to tell you that they don't have faith in dark matter.
Like, come
Because
on, come
yeah, without
on,
it,
bro.
you don't have gravity. It doesn't work.
Exactly. And what the fuck is dark? Like, I mean, come on, what, antimatter? Like,
Yeah, that's
it's
fake
it's
right there.
not a pen. Is that what you're telling me? I have a pen and not a pen. Like,
It's like
come
it's like
on,
it's like
people.
anti-goo or something. Like what? I mean, can you hand me some of it? Can I see it? Is it cool?
You
Well,
don't understand. You don't understand. That's it. You just don't understand. Well, hey, I guess I could say that about you. You just don't understand God, right? You just don't understand.
it's
And that's
insane.
it. Well, understands a word, understands another word. And I've said, how do you know if I understand the ball? If I believe it. That's the only way they can tell you if you understand their models, if you accept it. You know? Oh, but
Yeah,
they can understand God and not believe.
but here's the thing, Chris, is that like their model is really it's brilliant. It's great. Like their model is great for like that's what we have to predict stuff with. But they don't understand that the math came second. Like the predictable environment was first, and the math was placed on top of it. And
Yeah,
that you can have all those predictions right on a flat surface if you just change the math. You know,
exactly. And then they're like, well, yeah, but the map is the map is it's the
math
map
is
is
reality.
yeah, the map is the map, man. The maps are flat, right? I got this fucking great picture. Maybe I'll if I post this up, I'll put this picture at this time. But it's like this terrain picture of California, and it's like all to scale and like the mountains and everything, and it's a real fucking awesome picture. But the entire state of
You cut out there, buddy.
yeah, I'm still here. Sorry, somebody just called. But that the topographical representation on this thing, it's all flat. So you have a perfectly mapped out California, and it's perfectly flat.
Yeah, except for
With
the mountain.
mountains to scale, yeah, except for the mountains. But there's no curvature in this, and it's all to scale. So how are you making a to scale
It's all
flat?
sea level because we have a coast, right? And if everything is sea level left to right, you can't tell me that there's a curve 3 miles ahead of me.
It's,
You
and
know
they'll
what I
never the curve. They'll just show you not a boat, and then be like,
because
oh well.
water sea level from left to right is flat all the way up and down the coast of California. That's a lot of miles, brother.
Yeah, man, California like 1,500, 2,000 miles, man.
Right. Like
What's that?
quarter
Like
of
ten
the
percent
state.
of the
Like
that's 10% of the ball.
a
So
quarter
you
of
you should have a pretty big fucking curve on the
hey.
coastline of California, man. That thing should be bent, but it's
Be
not.
bent. Exactly.
It's just not, and you're just like, where is it? Like I'm just like so.
There's no curve to show us.
It's
All they
just
can show is some kind of weird fake, deal, and then they get mad like you just never accept things. Well, I mean, come on, it looks fake, dude. Like you want me to say that like I believe that the picture of that planet is real? Like how did you even take a picture of it? Isn't it moving hella fast? Like shouldn't it be a blur or when you take a picture of Earth with the sun being the only light source, right? And water being so reflective, shouldn't it just be a big bright flash when you take a picture? Like how do you
I.
get it to stand still? Like what are we talking about here?
How do they get bigger when you zoom in? They're 90 billion miles away. Shouldn't you just zoom in on a dot? Like it's just everything is just. How are you going to zoom in on Saturn? Or this planet that's like 50 billion light years away. You're just going to zoom in with a P900 and it gets as big as you know, big as the fucking screen. What? How? It can't be that far away, people. Like
Well,
they're
I do know this for a fact is that like God is amazing and created an amazing environment for us where really the only things we have to fear is each other. I mean, yeah, we have Satan is something we have to be aware of, right? But as long as we don't consent to Satan, right, then he can't hurt us, you know? And I think the book of Job explains that well where like Satan had to get God's permission to touch him, because Satan can't read your mind and he can't physically touch you. But if you let him in, if you open any doors, he could just you know
yeah.
control
We'll
your
give him
life.
an inch. He'll take it all. He'll take all the. It won't just be what you consent to. It's going to be like because you can't
Everything.
get you. Yeah, you can't go back once he's like, oh, the fame and fortune. You're like, oh yeah, and then it's like, bam, now you're hooked. Now you got to do all the other stuff that goes along with that.
Yeah.
And that's where you start losing your humanity. And that's where we start. You can start getting into like, the mark of the beast as a, maybe not a.
It's like it's coming. It looks like it's coming, brother. To be honest, and I
Yeah,
was gonna ask you about that. Is like, what do you think about like the current events the way they are? I'm sure that I know that you're
crazy.
like natural world type science guy, but I know that you've looked into viruses and stuff like that. I know you have at least a base knowledge of that. And like them using this flu virus or whatever. real or not, to shut down the entire world. And if anybody thinks that they shut down Vegas, Atlantic City, and all, cigarette companies and all this stuff, right? Like for a flu, right? I mean, you're crazy,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
But they shut down the world with no dissenting opinions, right? That was from Quantum of Consciousness. He said not one celebrity or one business owner or one politician anywhere in the world said, "Oh no, look, this we got to get back to work. This is blah blah blah." Nobody said that. All they have done is offer us a choice. You can either protest and beg for permission to open the state, or you can go into your house, and that's what they want. They want to either mow you down or have you stay in your house, and nobody's just going back to work like normal, right? That would be like the worst thing, right? But what's your take on the current events, and do you think this has to be the time where they're going to make their move, because people are going to know too much that the news is fake and everything is fake if they procrastinate longer? I don't think we have much time, Chris. What do you think?
No, yeah, I remember like I used to, oh, we got 60 years. I used to think it would take a lot longer to get where I thought the Earth would be, before like it all comes crash, when it all stops. Like, because, if you read Revelation, it'll be like, things are going to be really tough for humans,
Right.
and it hasn't been that tough. Yeah, okay, you could be like, well, there's still kids in Africa. I'm like, okay, like, yeah, I'm not trying to downplay any of the suffering in the world, but there's a big chunk of the world that is doing really good and just like feasting,
Well,
and like that's not going to be end times. End times is going to be where there's the vast majority of the world is doing really bad, and
yeah,
that's what this is looking like. You know what I mean? You got all these
yeah.
people out of work now.
No, I agree. I agree. I mean, it's like I guess. Well, one, we got to kind of look at it as like we're probably in the best possible position out of everyone in the world because we started out with the most amount of freedom, right? So
Oh
like
yeah, yeah.
things won't be probably as bad for us as the rest of the world. And just like you, I'm sensitive to that suffering in the world or whatever. But I mean, I think like what's gonna come is like someone's gonna come in to save the world from this current mess, and that's gonna be the Antichrist. And then I think it will be prosperous for a couple of years, and then it'll get real bad. And depending on how you feel about the rapture, pre-trib or mid-trib, but a rapture will happen, but it's either pre-trib or mid-trib, right? We probably won't be here for like Armageddon and all that stuff, Mark of the Beast, probably not. But it's possible that we could be here for some of that. So when it gets
But
real bad, we probably won't be here though, Chris. You know?
yeah, well, I mean, hey, part of me is like I kind of hope I'm here like till the to the very end. One
Yeah.
I'd like to be there. Not just to kind of see it, but also like there's going to be still people that need to be uh you
Saved.
know yeah, yeah, and they're going to need I feel like during rapture God's going to take like the vast majority up, and he's going to leave his best ones behind, and he's like, all right, like I've chosen you to stay here during the hardest of times, to finish up and collect the last little bit of souls. I don't think he's going to make the vast
Like that,
majority of his people go through that.
trust me with that. If there's something like that, I really hope God would trust me with something like that. Like even though it would be hard, and I'm probably it's easier to say than for it to happen, but I would feel honor in that. I don't know about you. I'm sure you would, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for, man.
Yeah. Well, look, the thing is like I'm not afraid to get my head cut off. That's for sure. And that I mean, and trust me, like
Yeah, it'd
I don't
probably
get
be pretty
everything.
quick anyway.
Yeah, and like I don't get everything in the Bible right. I've been called a false prophet on here so many times in the chats. And it's like, look, I don't get everything right. Trust me, I want to be right. I want to do the right thing. I want to call God the right name and all this. How they come up with all these names, Yeshua and all that. And that I do agree with it. That you can call him that, and like if that's what I'm supposed to call him, I want to call him that, but I don't know. It's we learned so many lies. It's like all we could do is try our best, right? And like you try to figure
And
out.
I think that's what you get judged on. He's not, he's not going to care if you didn't pronounce fucking Yeshua or if you called him God. That's, or you called him
Yeah, then
Jesus. I
Bible,
don't think
and
he's
I'm
going to care about that stuff.
accountable for that. So I just say Jesus because it's in the book that he gave me. You know, I mean,
Yeah,
like,
no,
I'm just not that it's wrong for anyone else, but like, we all, I mean, you and me both. I mean, we just want to be right. We're not, we're not, trying to claim that we have the best doctrine or answers. It's like if I'm wrong about something and you show me, I'll change.
yeah, no.
You know.
I'll admit, I'm like, yo, when it comes to like this whole the like history and the translation of the Bible and all that, bro. I'll be honest, I'm like, I don't really don't really get caught up. And people are like, well, you're. I'm like, hey, man, to me, like, the Bible is for like, when like Christians are like getting down to like, well, what do you guys think? Not you don't bring up the Bible on a non-believer or something. That's so in
Right.
those aspects, I'm like, bro, you're not. What am I going to talk the Bible to you? You don't even fucking believe in God. So
Right.
the Bible's purpose is more like personal. I don't think you walk around with the
Right.
Bible preaching.
Exactly.
I mean, you
Exactly.
use yeah, I think if you're going to preach God, you use like, you just go with your words, and people are if like, hey man, you got more on this? And I'm like, yo, go read your Bible, brother. That's what I would
Well,
tell you.
here's the
If
thing,
you
right?
like what I'm saying.
Like my brother is called to teach, right? He was a pastor for a long time, right? And he can teach. I'm not called to teach, right? I can't read a scripture and tell you how to apply it to your life, right? I can only say what it says in the book, and then hope that you believe, that you believe the right things. But the reality is that you got to read that book yourself. It's a personal thing, relationship with you and God. And I want this channel to be right. We've had some baby Christians on as guests, and I've heard some ridicule in the chat, but it's also good to have the strong Christians keep us accountable, right? Maybe give us some insight. But it's like I want everyone to believe when they hear this episode here, this show, that you can, whatever you are at this point, whatever you chose to do to your body or what you are as a person, right? You can come right now and be a part of this, and you get saved, and you start working on your life and have some saving faith that we have some a paradise ahead of us, then anybody can come here and be part of this and work on it. And we are close to the end. This is like thief on the cross time. Like nobody's asking anyone to become a perfect person or to be judged or anything like that. You have to just try your best. And if you'll know if you're trying your best or not, right? That's personal, right? I mean, that's
Exactly. And if you know, God knows. Like if you can't fool yourself, you can't fool God. And that's what everybody thinks. Oh, this deathbed confession. You didn't
yeah,
fool yourself.
it's not,
If you're doing a deathbed confession, so does he.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I bet like if it was a deathbed confession and it was like really sincere, like you really like, oh
Like
God,
the
I'm
thief. Look at the
really,
thief.
uh,
His was a deathbed, right? The thief on the cross. He was
yeah,
he was on. He was going to die in 10 minutes, and he was
right.
like, "Whoa, shit, bro."
He's like,
So and
baby,
you're God, bro. Okay, I accept it. And God was like, "Hey," and look at how quick Jesus was just like he spoke to him within 15. What was it? 15, 20 seconds. He's like, "Bro, your kingdom is waiting." He went that guy went from having no kingdom to having a
he,
kingdom, right
he
there,
said, today you will be with me in paradise.
right there. Bam. He went.
Amazing. Anyway,
That's
hey,
how quick it can happen. Yeah.
let's round out. I just want to say that I think I understand your arguments. Some stuff you say is a little over my head sometimes, but I have a good grasp of what you're trying to say in some of these debates. And I think that if maybe one of these debate shows would let me like speak for you because they think that you're the one that has the problem and gets emotional or whatever. And when it's really they get stuck and they're looking for a way out and they go, oh, you're always like this, right the hand, and they kick you out. But if they would accept like you coming on and like letting me speak for you or whatever, and instead of trying to convince them, if we could just appeal to the audience what we're trying to get by, maybe we might save one or two people out in that crowd.
Yeah, no, I was, like I said, people know me. I used to do stand up comedy, and like one of my favorite things was like watching other comedians perform. Yeah, I like getting on stage. Yeah, I like performing, and everybody was like, oh, you just want to speak all the time. You want to take up all the. I'm like, yo, look, I don't mind doing it, but if there's somebody else that is willing to step up, I am perfectly happy to take a seat in the audience and watch. Like, it is a lot of pressure, being the person with the voice, every argument you got to come, you got to, yeah, and there's some anxiety. I still get, that stage fright, the anxiety of before a performance, that
Trying
whole
to
stuff.
they're always trying to trick you in some kind of way. That's the thing about ballers, is they don't just present their evidence and let us present ours and say, "Hey, look, yours doesn't work." They don't let us do that. They try to twist what we say, or,
Oh man,
oh, but did you make
it's
the temperature of foam that day? Did you make the temperature of the coefficient of the sea foam that day? Oh, well then
I'm
it's
like, come
wrong.
on.
You know?
Yeah, no, and I hear, because that it's like when I talk with you or I talk with Tom, it's like, it's easy. I just have a good time. Like when I talk with these boys, I can't just say, we don't have discussions, because I'll say something and, like you said, they twist it. And I'm like, bro, like, I did not say that. I didn't even put that in any wire, and then, yeah, it just, and you never you just keep going down another rabbit hole. Like, they keep, because they'll be like, oh well, you said. I'm like, but I didn't make that claim. And then they're like, well, what claim? I'm like, I didn't make any claims. And they're like, well, when are you going to make a claim? I'm like, are you not listening? Like, I don't make claims. I'm just showing it, and it just, you're
And
like,
when you
it's like a
like,
fight.
and
You
then
just
when you try
fight
to
them.
say
Oh,
like then when you try to say, like, okay, well, if you're gonna say the ground, then I'm gonna say the sky. Like, oh, I thought you didn't make claims. No, I'm just giving you an opposite of what you're saying. That
it's,
anything, right? But they don't see that. They just try to catch you so they can get out from
exactly.
under. They know they lost. It's over. This debate has
Yeah.
been over for 3 years. It's almost, to me, it's almost dumb now. It's like, come on, man. Now you're just a liar. Like, obviously flat, right? Now it's a joke. Like, if to me, it's a joke that I ever believed a water ball with air stuck to it was flying through a vacuum at 10 to the negative 17 torr. That's stupid, man. That's
It
just
just,
that's just not possible.
it
And I
shows you
believe
how amazing that trick is. It shows you how good the magic trick is, man.
it's a spell, I think. It's more than just the trick and the wizardry. It's a spell too, I think. There's some kind of hypnotism going on there. And it just probably, maybe it just doesn't work on some of us. Or maybe it's because of the Holy Spirit. Who knows? But
That's that. No, that's shout out Slick James Johnson. He did a talk, his video back. It's about, like, brainwashing, and what is it like? Is it a real hypnotism? Like, are these people under an actual spell? Do they do it to themselves? And that's what I think it is. I think,
well,
like,
I think
I
there's
relate
some
it to the devil in
to it.
Pride.
Well, I
Like,
think
he almost convinced himself.
Well, I think there's some consent to it because, of course, people want space to be true. It's like it's fascinating, right? But like as soon as you see on TV, even on YouTube videos, you gotta be careful. If you see any like spinning graphics or like flashing lights all the time, like I don't watch anybody's intro anymore. I know Adam does a great job, and I've seen all the intros, but I don't watch them regularly because I don't watch anything that spins or is circular or flashes at me,
Mm-hmm.
because hypnotism scientifically, I mean, is a real thing.
Yeah,
That's
subliminal imaging and all that
I'm,
fucking symbols, like the
you'd be naive,
swirling.
you'd be naive to think that they're not doing it.
Yeah, of course. Just, I mean,
Yeah.
if I was the devil, if I was the evilest motherfucker in the world, I'd be doing it. I'd be putting shit in your Cheerios that when you ate it, you heard the sound of, like, Satan, Satan.
Well,
you know, I'd be doing all sorts of little fucking tricks.
hey,
Why does it's snap crackle Satan?
let's round out, my friend. I enjoy having you on. I know a lot of people, they think that you're abrasive, and of course you have no filter. You say what's on your mind, and you know what? It's okay to be yourself if you're genuine. I think that we're all working on getting better every day, right? And I just sometimes I want people to see you the way I see you. I see that you're really trying, and you have a strong heart for God. It's just that when we start out, we are that person when we start out, and sometimes it takes time to work on that. But I think you're a solid guy and a friend of the show, and I'll stand up in your corner. You know what I mean? And so I'll say that publicly. You know, but I want to say to the audience, thanks for listening, and God bless, and we have a great God and a great creation of earth, but it was no surprise it fell on the second or third day, or whenever Eve ate the apple. And it's no surprise. The world is fallen, and we have a Redeemer. He came, and we are living in the end times, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Get saved if you're not saved. Read Romans 10:9, and I'll post the prayer, the salvation prayer, on the thumbnail. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. I'll see you later, Chris. Thanks for
Yeah,
having
man. Thanks for having me.
me.
Yeah, good talk.
All right, buddy. Bye.
Peace out, bro.